Hello everyone. For today's video we are going to be going over assemblies, just an introduction to assemblies. So you start by clicking on the assembly here, or if you click on new you can click on standard.iam right here for assembly, but no, I'll just click here. The biggest thing to know for assemblies is really just constraining parts. There's two types of constraints. There is, if we go over here, to assemble, we have you have joint and constrain right here. Once we have a couple parts placed, we'll actually be able to use those buttons. But for this video, we're only going to be doing the constrain button. So start with place. Find the part that you need to place. I will send these parts out so you can. So you have access to these parts along with the video. You should have an email with these three parts attached in it. We'll start with the foam press collar. Click open, and we could just right click and say place grounded at origin. However, I want to flip the part around. You can't really see it right here. If I click on home, you get a little bit of an isometric view. I would like the can't really point at because my cursor is attached to it, but you can see the two holes on the far side. I would like those to be facing me, so I just right click and say rotate Y 90 degrees. I do it twice to rotate 180 degrees. That looks good right there. So I right click, say place grounded at origin, and now we're good. And if you did not rotate the part around, that is fine. Like, you can just have the part rotate the other way, or we can fix it. We can fix it other ways as well. But so that's our base part right here. You'll notice that it has that that thumbtack on it. That means it is grounded, and grounded just means it's fixed where it's at right now. So now I will place this plate shaft here. I'm going to place two of them like this, so just one right here and one right here. However, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees like that, and then, sorry, I rotate it 180 degrees, and then I'm going to rotate the X as well. So now the counter bore is facing us, so we want both counter bores on the same side. Okay, now we just start constraining. So maybe let me give a little bit of intro to this. So the constraint right here, we have 5 basic constraints. No, more than 90% of the time you will only use mate and insert right here. Mate just makes two faces align with each other, and you can either have them opposed or both going the same way. And the same goes with insert, except with insert you have some two lines that line up, typically center lines of cylindrical features. But we'll start with the mate, and we'll use the mate right here. Click on this surface. You can see there's a little arrow on my surface saying basically which way the arrow is pointing. So since we're using this one, both arrows are going to be pointing away from each other once they constrain to each other. Another note: make sure you always click on the part that is moving first. So I click on this part, and then the part that I want to constrain, and the part it's being constrained to second. So I say apply. Next, I'm going to do flush. I'm going to make this flush with this surface here. I'll say apply. And let's do the same thing on this one. Change it to mate. Make those two surfaces. Apply, and then flush. Okay, so now those surfaces are all flush with each other. I'll say apply, and I'll cancel real quick. So now we can move these independently of each other. One more constraint that we should do real quick is a symmetrical constraint. So I want these two these two faces symmetrical to each other. So I just click on both these faces, and then, and if you're not sure what this, click on this is your first selection, second selection, then the third thing I click on is the symmetry plane. You can do a few things. You can come over here and click on the symmetry plane of the entire thing, or click on the symmetry plane of this actual foam press collar right here. Either one works. I'm just going to use the foam press collar plane. So click on the YZ plane. Now these two surfaces are symmetrical to each other. So I say apply. So now if we play with it, okay, they're constrained to be symmetrical. So now I just need to find the actual distance between them, and I'm going to have to go find that real quick. So I'm going to pause this and come back in a second. Alrighty, so the distance between, I found the distance between this surface here and this surface here should be 2.625 inches. So the way we do that, we do it as if we were going to mate them. So I click on both surfaces like this, and it automatically mates them together. But then I want an offset, so that's basically it's adding some distance between the two mates. So I just do 2.625 there, and it moves them out now they are 2.625 inches apart right there. And that looks good to me. Sometimes you'll have to put like a minus sign on this because it's reversed for whatever reason, but we're good here. So I'll just say OK. And now those parts are fixed, and it looks like they are in the right spot. So we are good to go. Next thing I'll do is place the collar shaft. So I'll place in two of those, one about there and there. So okay, and then I will go back to constraint, and this time I'm going to use insert. I always click on the part that's moving first, so I'm going to click on this one and make sure. Sometimes you have to be a little careful, you know, like on chamfers or something, that you're clicking on the correct surface. It doesn't really matter in this case, but I want to click on the bottom surface there, and then I'll click here. And since I had the opposed one on, makes it so the two arrows are pointing other ways. I want to change that to aligned, and I'm going to offset it by 1/4 inch, and actually be minus 1/4 inch. That looks good to me. I'll just apply, and I'll do the same thing over here. And we could have mirrored it like I did in the demonstration earlier today. Something didn't go right. Let's try that. Let's just cancel and try that again. So I'll click here. Oh, I forgot to click on insert. And click here. Okay. Make it what do you call it, aligned, and I'll offset by minus 0.25. Excellent. Okay, so now we're assembled. We just need to add in the bolts. So come over here to the design tab and click on bolted connection. Okay, I need to save the assembly first, and I'm going to call it a press collar. And I'm going to say yes to all, since I guess I haven't saved these on this computer yet, so I'll just say OK. It's current release. Okay. So now we'll wait for that to fully save, and it opens up the bolt connection component generator box. Make sure this is on by hole, and I actually haven't used this with 2017 yet, so we'll hopefully everything is basically the same. We're going to start by putting bolts in these two holes. So click on the start plane, click on this hole, follow pattern, I'll click on that, and then termination, I'll have it terminate on this plane here. Try that again. There we go. And I want 1/4 inch bolt. So I clicked on that bar to open up the fasteners. I click that drop down menu, click on socket head bolts. I like to do hexagon socket head cap screw. And the length looks good to me. It's a 1-inch bolt. So now I'll just say apply. Okay, it's asking me where I want to save it. That looks like as good a spot as any. Okay, so now I have those bolts. So 2 down, 6 to go. I'll start on this one over here. So I click on the start plane, existing hole, and termination over here. If I wanted to say follow pattern, I could try clicking on it, but it's grayed out because there's no pattern to follow. These are 2 separate parts, so it doesn't like doing the follow pattern on those. Okay, it's 1/4 inch. Add a fastener. We're going to change it to socket head bolts, hexagon socket head cap. Check the length. Looks fine to me. If we wanted to use another 1/4 inch long screw, we could do that. That kind of makes sense since we're using an inch screw there. That way we don't have to get that many different kinds of bolts. And I'll say OK. Yep, save it there. And we could open up that dialog box and do the same thing over here. A shortcut around that. It's not necessarily a shortcut. Another way to do it. It might actually take longer, but you open the mirror. Click on this as the component, mirror plane. Make sure that's the right mirror plane. Yep. And it mirrored that bolt over there. Okay, it still wants to know a place to save it. Okay, so now I have my bolt over there, and it should be in the right spot and the same length. Now I just have the bolts on the bottom to do. So I'll go back to design, bolted connection. This is the start plane. Existing hole is right there. I want to follow the pattern, and termination is up here. Okay, make sure that that is a 5/16 hole. Open that. I'm going to do the socket head bolts again. Same bolt. Looks good to me. I'll probably shorten those bolts, but I want to add in a washer on that. So you can click to add a fastener here and click to add a fastener here. You'll notice the holes in the middle, so we want to add the fastener between the bolt and the hole. So it's just the order that you click on things here. And we'll do a plain washer. And you can see with the wireframe right there, it's giving us a preview of what it's doing. I want that to be a little bit shorter. There we go, 1 inch. And say OK. Save it. There we go. So now we've got our 4 bolts there. And that's all there is to this assembly. It's really quite simple, and I think it's, at least for a simple part like this, it's easier than designing parts. It's just a matter of figuring out the constraints. Sometimes you'll have to be a little more creative with your constraints, but for the most part it's fairly simple.